Hey boys and girls, so we're going to go ahead and get started with adding color to our Pete the Cat illustration. So here's my Pete the Cat that we drew from last time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a couple of different supplies so you can see how they work depending on what you have at home. So I pulled out the watercolor paints because traditionally Pete the Cat is actually drawn and painted with watercolors. The illustrator actually uses these. Now, another thing we can use is also, of course, markers. So let's go ahead and get started. So we drew a frame around our Pete the Cat. So I'm going to start actually with his frame. And I think Pete the Cat would look awesome with a gold frame. So I'm going to take my paintbrush and I'm going to stay as close to inside those lines that I drew with my black marker as I can. And I'm going to fill in my frame. Now, when I'm painting in my frame, I can also do some other things with it. So my frame, if I want, I can actually add little hints of orange to the corners to bring out the color of my frame. So I'm going to keep going with that, and I'm going to finish up his frame. Now, Pete the Cat is a blue cat, which I always loved, which is part of the reason why he's one of my favorite book characters. That and the cool songs he comes up with. The cool songs are the best. And blue is actually one of my favorite colors. And there is my frame. Now let's say I don't have watercolors. And remember, you could have painted in the frame with markers if you wanted to, or colored in the frame with markers. But let's say I don't have those. So we can actually use markers for Pete the Cat as well. So I'm going to use marker for Pete the Cat. Now, when we use markers, we have to be careful when we put color down. So I'm going to show you a couple tricks. You're going to make lines with your markers so that way you color in nice and even and neat. So every time I'm going to come down and make a nice even stroke with my marker. Almost think about it like you're painting with your marker. I'm going to go all the way around. It's going to be a little tricky for me because my paper is a little bit wet, but that's okay. And you can always let your paper dry in between the parts. So each stroke with my marker, I'm going to make a line and bring them really close together. And these little white spaces, I will go back and get later. Now, I hope you enjoyed the read-alouds of Pete the Cat. I'm not quite as good as Mrs. Goldman is with read-alouds. My voices aren't quite as fun, but that's okay. Practice is what's going to make it perfect with that. So there's my Pete the Cat. Now, something else about Pete the Cat that we want to remember is he actually has yellow eyes. So I'm going to go back in with my yellow marker, and I'm going to add the yellow to his eyes as well. And then I'll go back to his body. And I'm going to color in his body, that beautiful blue that he is. Now remember, if you're Pete the cat, if you would like to paint him, you can paint him. You can use marker. And actually, I didn't mention it, but you can use crayons as well. I'll make sure that's on the supply list. So if you would like to use crayons instead of markers, that is fine. Whatever works. And there is my finished Pete the cat portrait. If you want it to be a little whimsical and a little fun, you could even add the little string to hang it on the wall. All right, boys and girls, I can't wait to see you all next week for our next art lesson, and I hope you enjoyed Pete the cat.